So what is a good open rate, and what kinds of things impact your open rate?
So open rates, they tell you a lot. They tell you how much of your audience is interested in a particular topic, and you should test different topics. You should do A/B testing with your list. So what I mean by that is segment your list and send one portion of your list maybe it's a different subject line. So you split your list and you say, okay, this half is going to get this subject line, and this list is going to get this subject line, and then which one performed better. Those sorts of things are helpful to see when you're analyzing your open rate. But when you look at that actual number, generally an average is anywhere around 18%. So an 18% open rate of your list is average. So I usually look at, if I have like a 25% open rate, I'm feeling really good about myself. I put a specific goal on myself for if Ann and I are doing emails, or if I do any emails for clients of mine, I always try to achieve at least a 20% open rate. And if I don't have a 20% open rate, then we look at it and we say, okay, was the list not clean? Did we put in some new emails that really maybe we shouldn't have from a different list? How is the list affecting the open rates? Let's look at the subject line. And that's really where you're probably going to see the biggest change, is the subject line. It's tricky because a lot of times if you're running something like a promotion, you want that to be in the subject line. You want, free orthotics for everyone. Unfortunately, words like free, reduced pricing, get half off, BOGO, those are words that email spam filters say, oh, this is promotional. I'm going to put it in this folder, and maybe, who knows when, the person will actually open up that spam folder and find it. So it's really hard sometimes to find the perfect wording. And that's why we always go back to content. Find something, yes, the promotion is valuable to the user, but is there some sort of other benefit? What's the benefit of the promotion? So if you give me a discount on orthotics, that's great. What do I care about 50% off a pair of orthotics if I don't have foot pain? So let's focus on the foot pain. And then maybe after I read your content about my plantar fasciitis, I'll say, all right, well, thank you for this information about plantar fasciitis. That sounds exactly like what I've got. I'm waking up every morning with heel pain. And you know what? Instead of getting a pair of orthotics from you guys, though, I'm just going to go ahead and go to Walgreens and get a pair of Dr. Scholl's and see if that works. It could happen. So how do we stop that from happening? How do we get them to purchase from you? Well, then that's when you provide the offer. So you've given them this helpful information, and now they know, this is what I've got. I need a custom or an OTC orthotic. And if you're not providing me an offer in the email, I'm going to go somewhere else. But then at the bottom, give them if you come to our office, schedule an appointment, come to our office, get 25% off a pair of custom or over-the-counter orthotics. Then now you've persuaded me, okay, well, this person is an expert. Obviously, you are a podiatric physician, not just Joe Blow. And so you're an expert. If I go to Walgreens, I may or may not get the right product, and you've already offered me something of value with the promotion, so I'm going to go ahead and come to you. So circling back, what's the point there? Yes, the promotion is probably what you think is going to create the interest and the open, but really it's the patient problem. Or if you're a vendor, it's the DPM problem. What is the problem I'm dealing with? And then what is your product or service that's going to give me relief? Whether it's practice management, whether it's foot pain. And then I'm interested in opening your email. Once I've opened your email, give me an offer and I'll probably purchase from you. So focus on, when you're creating subject lines, always go back to the audience issue. What's their pain in the chain? Do they have foot pain? If you're a DPM, Or do they have issues with practice management? Do they need new technology? Whatever, for vendors, whatever your product or service is, what problem are you solving for your audience? And focus on that versus focusing on BOGOs and 50% off.
Right, and I do want to talk a little bit more about content, but first I want to go back to what you were saying about the quality of your list. Because if you have, let's just say you have 5,000 people on your list, and you're getting a very low open rate, that's probably because a lot of those people, maybe even 1,000 of them, they don't check that email address anymore, or it's completely inactive, or you've got it spelled wrong. So make sure after every campaign that you send out, you're going in and looking at who unsubscribed, remove them from your list, and any addresses that were cleaned or bounced, make sure you either send them some kind of a separate email that says, hey, are you getting my emails? Are you interested? And if nobody responds, remove all of those email addresses, because if your list is 20,000 people, it means zero if no one is actually opening your emails and engaging with you.
Right.
So just keep in mind the quality of the list. You want people that are actually responding to you, because even if you only have a list that's 250 people, if every one of those people, or even 80% of them, is clicking on your email, reading it to the end, and clicking through on whatever content you've provided, that is a valuable email list. Those are people that are listening to you and are interested in what you have to say and what you have to offer to them.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit more about content.
Okay.
What sorts of things should we send out to our list? And also, you and I use this term, and we've heard this phrase, and I think it's a book title, jab, 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 right hook. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is, and how to balance promotional content with valuable content?
Sure. Hopefully I kind of hit on it a little bit just a moment ago in terms of focusing on the problem that your product or service is solving for your audience. So if you're a vendor and your audience is the DPM, why are you in business? What sort of solutions are you providing DPMs for their practice and their patients? And it's so easy for us to get bored with ourselves and bored with our content, because we're constantly, we live in a vacuum of our own companies, and that gets really monotonous and mundane. But unfortunately, it is those are the reasons you're in business. And so even though certain things may seem boring and repetitive to you, those are still the core services and products of your company. So you need to keep harping on them to your audience until, buy or die, basically. And so, but again, you need to make sure that you're focusing on their problem, focusing on the solutions that you provide. So if I am a vendor, let's say I'm a vendor and I provide laser technology, or I provide shockwave therapy, something that is for pain management, for chronic pain. And I want to provide them content. I want to provide studies that show my product for chronic pain has shown the XYZ percentage of patient relief. Isn't that interesting? Again, we're going into the information that they find useful, things that are going to help them become better at what they do, information that they can share with their patients. Or if you are a DPM, it's the same thing. I mean, the amount of information that the DPMs have is beyond. And again, it's one of those things where every patient that comes in the office, it's like, okay, another patient with plantar fasciitis. Wow, this is so exciting. To the patient, though, it's a really big deal. It's new to them. It's very monotonous and mundane to you, potentially, but it's very new to the patient who's never experienced this condition before. So, and the reason I go back to that is I just don't want people, regardless of your business, to think, well, people are sick of hearing about solutions to plantar fasciitis. No, they're not, because someone new is getting it every single day. And so continue to pound those consistent messages into your audience's brain about the value of your product and service. What are you providing that is going to give them solutions? So when it comes to creating the content, what information is going to help them have an improved quality of life? And continue to give them that, and then follow it up with however you want them to convert. If it's just booking an appointment for DPMs, or if it's scheduling a luncheon with a vendor. However, whatever is the next step in your sales process, start with the problem for your audience, and then, okay, I need to learn more about working with you specifically for creating the solution to my problem.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about how to get started with our list, the types of content we should provide, and we honestly could talk about content until we're blue in the face, because this is something that we are very passionate about with our podiatrymeetings.com newsletter. We constantly are talking about how can we make this valuable to the people that are opening it? What tools and resources and tips can we give people to make sure they're opening our newsletter and they are wanting to hear from us? So, I mean, I'm a huge believer in valuable content. So
absolutely,
let's talk about how often should we be communicating with our list? How much is too much? How much is too little?
This is a question I always get from my clients, because they want to be in their audience's faces, but they also don't want to annoy. And so there's a healthy balance there. So like during the holidays, for example, I lose my mind. I can't take another Kohl's email. You know, I'd rather have another hole in the head. So, you know, you have to figure out what is the balance. But again, maybe during the holidays, other people are like, yes, another Kohl's email for a specific promotion because I'm not done shopping for my grandma. So you just have to kind of know your audience. And being in this business for as many years as many of you have been, you should probably know your audience pretty well by now. And so for vendors, you know that your DPMs are busy. They are seeing patients all day long, and when they're not seeing patients, they probably just want a minute for themselves, whether they're getting a workout, actually eating food, or spending time with their families. So when is a good time to email your podiatrist? Well, I recommend that you don't send any more than at most once a week. But when you're kind of just getting warm to it and maybe doing some initial testing, probably only once every other week. And I probably wouldn't do any more than that, especially if you don't have fresh new content. So again, content is king. That's really going to be the driving force behind how often you send the email blasts. Now, a lot of articles, a lot of blog posts online will say, oh, well, why don't you just ask your customers how often they want to be emailed? I never online be like, hey, Kohl's, I only want to be emailed once every 3 weeks. Please do that. I'm not going to take the time to give you tips on how often to email me. It's the last thing on my mind. I see the email, I'm either enjoying it or I'm not. So I always go back to the content. If you've got new, fresh information that is going to blow your audience's mind, send it out. But at the same time, you know, you don't want to, let's say you had 2 really fantastic new articles that you've written and you're so excited about them and you want to send one out on Monday and the next out on Wednesday. Just hold on to it for a minute, okay? That content's not going to go anywhere. Hold on to it for at least another week so that you're only sending things out once a week. And I would recommend the same thing for DPMs. With patients, healthcare, as you know, is very reactionary. Is that a word? If it's not, I just made it up. I think that it's a word. So people really don't, I don't make a doctor's appointment unless I'm sick. So it's not that I'm not going to see valuable content coming to my email once a week and not appreciate it, because I do want to know, let's say I get an email from a chiropractor. I do want to know about my holistic health if they're into holistic services. And so I'm looking at that information, and I might not need it right now. I might not need it this week, but if you're emailing me once every 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden I throw out my back, who's going to be top of mind for me? The chiropractor who's been emailing me every 2 weeks and has positioned themselves as an expert and the key opinion leader in my marketplace. So I know exactly who I'm going to call and make an appointment with. If you're not doing things like that, then you're just relying on, well, I'll do a Google search and see who comes up first. And you know probably better than anyone that a lot of times whoever's listed first on Google might, you might feel like you have a more thriving practice, or you have better patient care, or you specialize. Let's say I have a bunion and I don't know who to go to. You're the bunion king, but whoever is listed first on Google is going to get that patient. And that's really unfortunate. So if you can stay in communication with your database and set yourself apart by creating content that is useful and educational, now you've positioned yourself as the key opinion leader versus relying on who's going to come up first on my Google search.
Yeah, and here, one thing that's important to me is consistency. If you say you're going to do a monthly newsletter, make sure you do a monthly newsletter or daily newsletter. If you say you're going to do it and your audience is used to you putting that out once a day or once a month or whatever, make sure you do it, because they may not notice every single one coming in, but they will definitely notice when you stop doing it. And even if you're not seeing a lot of engagement at first, consistency compounds. So just keep doing it. And it's like weight loss. Just keep doing all the right things, and eventually the results will come in. And don't be discouraged if you have a couple bad open rates, or just experiment with what works. Change your subject line, like Sarah was saying. Use pre-headers. Switch up what shows first in your email. Is it above the fold? Is it logo and all that kind of jazz, or is it the content? Just experiment and work with it to see what works, and constantly nurture your list and constantly be collecting new information, new emails. Update your opt-ins and lead magnets and the way that you gather all those email addresses. So lots of good stuff here. People ask us, we've been getting this question a lot about email marketing. I mean, I just feel like people keep wanting to pick our brains about it. And in fact, just today, I got an email from one of my other clients that she has a client who wants to learn more about email marketing. It's just top of mind right now. And so we know that DPMs and vendors can benefit from this information. So obviously, you're not going to learn it all from this 30-minute or 45-minute little video chat, but take some time to look at articles and read the statistics on email marketing and dive into whatever program you choose to use. Read all the resources that they give you. Or if you're using a provider in the podiatry space, there's lots of different providers that handle this for you. So if you're using them, ask them the questions. Don't just rely on them to do the work for you. You need to make sure that it is current and it's they know what they're doing, and they know how to get the best open rates, and they know how to manage your list and segment your list. Just keep those communication lines open with your provider.
And I would say, because like Ann said, we've kind of gone over a lot, and every time we start talking about this, one point leads to another point. Like we were talking about going through your audience's buying process. And so it's like, oh my gosh, how do I get started? And a lot of times when individuals come to me and they want to start an email marketing program, they're like, okay, let's go. And I'm just like, well, you don't have a list. So I would say if you're going to start from scratch, which is awesome because you haven't messed up yet. So starting from scratch is always, like, to me, blank slates are the most amazing thing. It's like a brand new set of crayons that hasn't been used yet. And you can start this whole program right out of the gate. And I would start with creating content. Before you even think about looking for an email provider, before you basically think about implementation, start with your content, because if you don't have the content, you're not going to have anything to say. So even if you have a giant email list, if you have nothing to say to them, it's what are you going to do with it? So I would start with creating maybe 4 to 6 weeks worth of content. And these don't have to be like novels. Write a 300-word blog post about any information that you think is valuable to your audience. And if you're trying to think of, well, which topic should I choose? If I'm a DPM, I'm probably going to think, what's the number one question my patients ask me? Or what are the top 5 questions I get every single week? Start there. Or if you are a vendor, same thing. What are the top 5 questions we get in our sales office? Or what are the top 5 questions that we get in our customer service calls? And start there. Create 300-word responses to those 5 questions. And now you've got some content that you're sitting on to provide to a list, if you've got a list, or the list that you're going to start creating. That's going to at least get you off of the starting block.